Good evening and welcome to another edition of 48 Shades of Football. I'm your host Mark, and I'm joined tonight by my colleague Paul.
Good evening.
Good evening, Paul. How are you today?
A bit tired. It's been a long week.
It's been a long week. It's been a long week waiting on the K-League releasing their fixtures. Is that what you mean?
They're all finally out, right?
They're all finally out. This week they launched the challenge fixtures, or maybe not. That's what it's called anymore. But did they put them up and then back down again, or did they just put them up once?
I have no idea, to be honest.
Okay, I think they just went up the one time, but I do believe they were delayed by a few days due to some squabbling and niggling.
Clubs negotiating and bartering and exactly.
Okay, I'm assuming today's intro music was "Smart Dressed Man" by ZZ Top.
Yep.
I'm assuming that's because you were at the release of the fixtures and you were dressed very smartly.
No, it's ACL related.
ACL related?
Yeah. Did you not see the pic doing the rounds on Twitter of the Brisbane Roar player he was number 77, right?
He was, yep.
And he had his numbers taped on the back of his shirt with plaster, sticky tape. I don't know.
I mean, it looked like band-aids, right?
But yeah, it made him. It made his 77 look like ZZ.
Because we could also went and do they notice the ACL at all?
Yeah.
But we didn't. Okay, how did they? I mean, I guess we'll get to the outcome of that game later. But pretty shocking that in Asia's premier competition, that you're basically fixing your numbers on the back of your shirt with band-aids or plasters or tape or whatever it was used to keep them on, basically, yeah?
I think the extra weight of that certainly had an effect on their performance, right?
I think so, yeah.
Or the shame of having to do that for another 6 games.
Pretty ridiculous, right? I mean, like, the A-League is not... Well, I mean, we did get some fixtures, some salary information released recently that the A-League is the poor cousin of the J-League and K-League, but still, you think they could afford shirts with numbers on them. I mean, they're not Rangers, after all. Anyway, so what's on the agenda for tonight, Paul?
There's a bit of live football this week in the second round of ACL playoffs. Okay.
We also had the kids were playing.
Yeah, the under-23s. They got through they've done to the semi-final so far. Just third place playoff and final to go now. Okay.
There's also some huge news that rocked the world of K-League.
Yep.
And that is that there may have been a name change. No, it's not John Druguk changing his name, but actually the leagues may have changed their name.
Yeah.
As we alluded to, the fixtures for the second division, let's call it just now, have been released.
The division formerly known as the K-League Challenge.
Yep. Some pretty interesting games coming up pretty quickly, actually. Some huge game in the first weekend. I guess we'll also go through who our winners and losers of the week are. Just give you a little hint. Mine might involve an orange shirt with some band-aids.
Okay.
And and I guess that'll be us. Well, not quite, actually.
You took a side trip, didn't you?
I did. I made a trip down to the lovely suburbs of Suwon.
A pilgrimage.
Well, not a pilgrimage. I hate the Blue Rings. But I went down to interview a podcast favourite son, or podcast listener son, but whatever the correct expression would be, Mr. Joe. And we talked all things ball related. Not just the beautiful game, but other ball games as well.
Okay.
So we will, I guess, get to a point where we will listen to that interview as well. And Joe will shed his insight on Korean changes in football and everything else. He's been here for a long time.
Okay.
But first up, as we said, some big news. The Classic and the Challenge is no more.
Right.
So does that mean the podcast can just stop if there's no more Classic and Challenge?
Unfortunately not.
Unfortunately not, okay.
So the Challenge has been changed to the K2.
It has, yep.
The Classic has been changed to the Everest.
Yes, indeed, yes. Which is a great Indian restaurant just around the corner from Dongdaemun Station.
Yeah.
So yes,
provided you go to the right one, right?
Yeah.
There's 2 with the same name. One good.
One is like bad. A fake one. It's like ridiculous. It's not uncommon in Korea to go to like 81 and buy a pair of Calvin Klein underpants, right?
Yeah.
That were not made by Calvin.
Yeah.
But to actually go to a restaurant with the same name and it's actually a fake restaurant. Well, it's a real restaurant, but it's like copying the name that's pushing the limits.
With a better location, right? Easier to find.
Yeah, far, but yeah, it's right on the main street, and our one's away down a dark alley. But anyway, so K1, K2.
K1, K2. What are your feelings?
Well, my feelings were that Classic and Challenge were ridiculous.
Yep.
Because to be honest, you never really knew, like which one was which, right? You know, you obviously being in Korea and knowing about the K-League, you did, but as a casual observer, Classic and Challenge didn't really kind of let you know which team was in the top league or not. So I'm happy that the ridiculous names are gone. They could have been a bit more innovative, imaginative. Maybe gone with like Premiership and Championship.
Because that's so clear about which is better.
But instead they went with K1 and K2. So, got to be happy enough, I guess. But
it's the K League one though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's K League 1,
K1, K2. That rolls off the tongue. But the K League 1, the K League 2 is a bit.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, as I said, it's better than Classic and Challenge. But whether or not they're going to use the rebranding to market things better or not is probably obviously resounding no. And
then obviously, third division is still the National League.
Yep.
The fourth division is still the K3.
Yep.
And the fifth division is also the K3, but the K3 it's got a slight variation. Yeah, so not the most amount of thought put into it, to be perfectly honest. We have K1, K2, National, K3, actually K4, and then K3 something else, which is actually K5. Yeah.
And again, you would probably have to go back and say, why does Korea even have more than 2 leagues anyway?
Why does it even have more than one, to be honest?
Why does it even have more than 4 teams? But anyway, so that's, now we have it, massive news. Shook the pillars of 48 Shades Tower when we heard. It means that we have to go back and take all those branded baseball caps that we made
and ship them off to Africa.
Ship them off somewhere needy. Anyway, maybe the A-League.
We're going to have our new slogan, make the K-League classic again.
Oh, wow.
Maka.
It does mean that we were running our K-Classics, which was a play on the K-Classic, or the K-League Classic. I guess now we'll need to just maybe change that name, yeah? But okay.
It's a good job our podcast wasn't, like, the name of the podcast wasn't a pun on K-Classic or something, right?
Yep. But then again, whose idea was it not to make it a pun on K-Classic and K-Challenge? But let's move on. So, as we said, K1, K2. Paul, when do you think FC Seoul will become K1 champions? Before or after they become K2 champions?
I think they'll be K1 champions, mathematically, sometime around late September.
I said Seoul, Paul. Yeah. So you think late September, what year?
I predict a player that's played for FC Seoul will win the championship this year.
Oh yeah, so do I. Not one who's currently playing. But anyway, I guess before we move into the next section, which was talking about K2 fixtures, the big news, well not big news, but news that we're hearing, or rumours that we're hearing, is that FC Seoul are linked with ex-Celtic striker Killian Sheridan.
Yep.
Personally, I think you'd be better off signing the guy from 28 days later, but his name is Killian Murphy or something. But
or John Sheridan.
Or John Sheridan.
50.
But what do you think? Like, I mean, is that obviously we had Niall McGinn last year who came over, didn't barely play and didn't settle. Do you think it's wise as so to be even remotely exploring this kind of signing?
I assume he's from Southern Ireland or Northern Ireland.
Yep.
He's Irish anyway.
Yeah.
I assume it'll be easier for him to settle in Seoul than in Gwangju.
Yeah, and I mean he has spent.
I assume you'll take him under your wing. And
he's
drag him down to Songnam games of the weekend.
He's a good friend of ex Diablo Malky, so we'll be passing on our contact details as soon as he arrives.
If he arrives.
If he arrives. It does mean that So would be getting shot of Kova though, right? Or Osmar.
Or Osmar, but Osmar just signed a new contract, so Kova seems more likely to go.
I mean, Sheridan has spent a lot of time in other countries. I mean, he left Scotland a long time ago.
Yeah.
He's been all over like Bulgaria and Poland and stuff like that. So
right.
it's not like now McGinn who's coming, having played in Ireland, then Scotland to Korea. He has travelled quite a bit, Sheridan. So maybe he'll find it easy to acclimatise. But as you said, it's got to be easier living in Seoul than it is living in Gwangju.
And have you ever seen him play for Celtic?
I have indeed. Physically in the flesh saw him play.
And
he's 6'4".
Okay. So
that's all I can remember and say. Not the most prolific.
So he's not the natural successor to what's his face, Henrik Larsson.
No, he's not the natural successor to Henrik Larsson's son Jordan either. No, he's not. He's not going to replace Dehan's 15 goals. I would be surprised if he did. But then again, do you think Kova's going to contribute 15 goals?
No. I hope Evandra's going to contribute 15 goals.
Well, that's it. So Sheridan could be coming in as being the guy to create, maybe from the wing. He is, as I said, he is 6'4", so he's going to cause all sorts of mayhem in a Korean defence. So, and at least when he heads the ball, unlike the rookie, he won't duck down to like 5'4" to try and head it. He actually is a big lad. So. Okay. So we did mention the K2 fixtures were out. Did you see them, Paul?
I saw that they were out, and I saw people were commenting on the fact that Puchon have got nothing at home for the first 2 months or so.
Yeah, something crazy, right?
Which is related to their new stadium.
Yep. Also, for me, like the big one was that the K-League decided to start again with Busan Songnam. So last year, the challenge, as it was, started with Songnam Busan at home, which was the game that everyone thought would be first versus second, or second versus first.
Yep.
This year, it's Busan versus Songnam down in the Godok.
Yep.
So yeah, that was 3rd of March. So my plan was to take Mrs. K down to Busan again for the weekend and go to the game while I was down. But 3rd of March in Busan, it's a bit chilly to be sitting on the beach.
I know the Diablos went down to Busan beginning of May a couple of years ago, and it was just about bearable sitting on the beach.
Yeah.
Absolutely freezing when we went in the sea.
Yeah. So having been in the Godok, where it's no roof, no sides, no walls, no seats, sitting on stone floor, I'm probably going to give that one a miss.
Okay.
I think.
So we'll go down to Jeju on the 1st then?
No. I will be in the big board to watch Shameless's debut.
As you may have seen, I recently put an article on K-League United talking about the Diablos.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to go into great detail about that epic trip to Jeju.
But you didn't remember anything?
I had a word limit that I couldn't keep to with all the stuff that went down.
That was the trip of trips, man. That was an amazing, epic trip, yeah. Long may it live in the memory of history. Okay, so anyway, the first weekend, the opening fixtures for the K League 2. As I said, we have Busan versus Songnam, we have Daejeon versus Bucheon, and Gwangju making their K2 debut. Back in the Mire again, are at home to Anyang. How do you see those games going?
Home wins.
Home wins?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that.
I wasn't really listening to you.
I would probably agree with
thinking about what I'm going to ask you next.
I would probably agree with home wins, yeah.
Okay.
On the 4th of March, we have Suwon versus Eland and Asan versus Ansan.
Also home wins.
Yeah, got to go with home wins. So you're probably looking at 5 home wins, I reckon.
Some bumper crowds.
Suwon Eland will be a big crowd, but unfortunately, aren't they competing with Blue Wings versus Jeonnam on the same day? Well, not the same day, right? Because I don't think. Anyway.
Maybe. You're asking me to remember something that happened 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, the opening day is Blue Wings versus Jeonnam.
I've got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Scottish Premier League, the first match you look for is Celtic versus the Zombies.
Mm-hmm.
In the old K-League Classic days, you would look for Songnam
versus Blue Wings, always.
And now you're in the Challenge. What was the first fixture that you were looking for?
Sorry?
What was the first fixture that you were looking for?
Well,
scanning down, saying when are we playing?
The first fixture I actually was looking for was when did we first play Suwon FC?
Okay.
And the reason being is because, as I mentioned, favourite podcast listener Joe has become a Suwon FC fan. We're obviously Celtic fans, and our allegiances in Korea have never crossed.
Yeah.
But now he's going to be a Suwon FC fan in K2, and I'm going to be a Songnam fan in K2. So now we're going to have a little bit of rivalry on the old group chats and in the old sort of Celtic group.
Okay. So when is that match taking place?
That match is taking place on St Patrick's Day.
Okay.
So for those who don't know, that's March 17th.
And you talked a little bit about this in your standalone interview with him.
We didn't talk about that game itself, but we talked a little bit about the K-League. We talked about Suwon FC. We talked about where we would see Scottish football versus Korean football, and we also talked about his passion for following AFL as well. So I guess now would be a good time to play that interview.
So we're going to splice that in now.
Yep.
Okay, take it away.
So this evening I'm joined by avid podcast listener Joe Quinn, also known on Twitter as Chief in Korea. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks, Mark.
How you doing?
Not too bad. A wee bit nervous with all the millions of listeners that'll be hearing this.
Don't worry, Joe. Well, if we advertise it in advance, it'll probably be the lowest record ever, yeah?
Probably.
So you're just back from Jeju. Obviously, we'll maybe touch on that a little bit later on. But I understand you had quite the trip to Jeju. You went there 4 times in 2 days.
Something like that, yeah. The snow meant we couldn't land in Jeju, so we flew down to circle the airport and came back. So yeah, that was fun.
Okay, sweet. So I mean, I guess that's something that we'll kind of talk about, is that your reason for being in Jeju, maybe a little bit later on, yeah.
Yeah, no problem, yeah.
But basically, the main reason for today's interview is are you a fan of the beautiful game, but you're also a fan of a different ball game as well. And we kind of want to get your perspective on how what it's like to be an expat trying to watch football overseas, yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
So I guess that kind of leads us in. I mean, how long have you been in Korea?
Well, it's almost about 14 years in total. I first came out in 1999, but I spent about 4 years back home between 2003 and 2007. But yeah, almost 14 years in total. 14 years.
So it's been a long time then, yeah. So you've seen a fair few changes in your time, yeah.
I have indeed, yes.
Okay, so I guess who's your so you're from Scotland, right?
I guess, yeah. We should pick that up, yeah.
So who's your team back home then?
Oh, cue the eyeballs rolling here, but yeah, I'm another Celtic fan.
Celtic fan. So I guess are you a Key man or a Son man?
Well, based on the Celtic links, I've got to go with Key, but to be honest, I think he's failed to achieve his potential.
Yeah.
And I've got to tip my hat to Son. This season he's come on leaps and bounds. I mean, I didn't rate him that highly based on Korean national team performances, but he's definitely adding something to that Spurs team and doing really well this season.
Yeah.
So my heart says Key for the Celtic links, but in truth it's probably Son.
Okay, so in terms of the Celtic links, I mean, do you find it easy to support Celtic? Because we've kind of talked about this, me and Paul, other about him being a Wednesday fan, me obviously being a Celtic fan. Like, do you find it easy to follow Celtic from Korea?
These days with social media, it's easy to keep up to date with everything and get all the news and all that. But the time difference just makes it hard. I mean, like you, I'm an old man, so staying up after midnight sometimes to watch Celtic, just the drive to do it is, I'm afraid, it's getting less and less each year. But you can still get all the news and everything, but I certainly don't watch as many games as I used to. Okay.
You mentioned social media there, Joe. Actually, on my social media profile, I'm only 25, yeah? So...
Oh, I'm 26, so it's not well.
Okay, so we mentioned in the intro there that you follow a different ball game that's not just football. Now, I might get this wrong, but you follow the AFL, is that what it's called?
Well, I follow Australian rules football.
Okay, Australian rules football.
The league is the AFL.
The AFL, yeah. So, what was the reasoning behind following Australian rules football? Then, what was the reason? Why did you start following that?
Probably started about 5 or 6 years ago. I was going through the peak of my modern football is rubbish phase. These players getting all this money and the transfer fees and it was just crazy. And like we mentioned earlier with the Celtic thing, that the kick-off times weren't convenient, that kind of thing. So I just skimmed about the internet and I basically stumbled across it, and it brought back memories of the old Saturday morning Channel 4 things. I don't know if you remember them.
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, it was the 1980s, these guys in tight shorts sitting about each other, the umpires with their lab coats and all that kind of stuff. So I just started watching a few games here and there, and I was quite into it. And it was quite a difference compared to football. I said at the time, I was all modern football is rubbish, all that kind of thing. So I got into the Australian rules football and especially the AFL. Okay,
so I'm going to assume that Paul Pogba's agent saying that 200,000 a year is not enough. Something that's going to make you a little bit upset then, yeah? I said 200,000 a month, is it? Well, a week, whatever he's on, right?
Oh, a week for Pogba, I guess.
Yeah, ridiculous, right? So who's your team in the AFL? Who do you support?
The team I support is the Richmond Tigers, or the Richmond Football Club, who are actually now the reigning premiers.
Okay.
But that was nowhere to be seen when I first chose them. That was unexpected.
Okay. So how did you choose them?
Well, there's a funny story about this actually involving you.
Oh really? Okay.
We were out, it was a random Sunday afternoon in Itaewon, and we were in Baby Guinness, I think. And there was this Australian guy at the next table, and we got talking. And I said, I'm into the Australian rules football. Do you recommend a team that I should actually get behind? And he suggested Fremantle Dockers. But they're based in Western Australia. And I thought, if I'm going to do it, I'd like to support a Victorian team, because 10 of the 18 clubs are in Victoria. So then he suggested Richmond. And I went back after the first couple of years following them. I thought it was a bit of a joke, because they hadn't won the flag, as it's called, since 1980. So I don't know if he's stitching me up or not, but in the end it's all worked out well.
Oh, excellent. So do you find it easier to follow them or to follow Celtic?
Again, social media makes it easy to get all your news and interactions and stuff, but the easiest thing was the time difference. Melbourne is only 2 hours ahead.
Yeah.
Glasgow's 9 hours behind at the moment, so the timing's much easier to support and follow Richmond.
Okay. And so how do you watch them? You mentioned social media there, but how do you actually watch the games? Are they on? They're not on Korean TV. Well, there's an Australian channel, but so how do you actually watch them? How do you see the games?
When I first got into it was just finding dodgy streams, I guess you'd say.
Okay.
But as I nailed my colours to the Richmond mast, I got what they call an international membership.
Okay.
So you become a member. It works out, I think, it's probably 140,000 won. They'll send you out, a wee membership pack, usually like a cap or a scarf and some stickers and that kind of thing. But with that, you actually get what they call the AFL Global Pass, which means you can log on to the AFL website and you can watch every game live. So it's based on that 140,001, I can watch 7-8 matches a week with that.
Okay, so that's basically, I mean, so over the total course of a season, how many games do you see? You said 7. How many games for 140,001 can you watch?
Well, basically, the way it's set up is they play Friday night through to Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon. There's 9 games a week.
Okay.
Only like 2 or 3, maybe 4 will ever overlap. So if the wife and kids are away and I was at home myself, I could pretty much watch them back to back to back. Okay. It's a 22 game season, then it's into the playoffs and stuff. So I'll watch at least once a week during the season, but there's plenty of weekends I will watch 2 or 3 games a weekend. Okay.
So that 140,001 pass then means that you can watch any team, not just Richmond.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, if you compare that to, for example, Korean football, which we think is really cheap, like Songnam 90,000, Suwon FC 80,000, I think it is, or something. I mean, if you look at that we think that's cheap, but for only an extra 50,001, you can watch pretty much a limited number of games, right?
Watch unlimited, obviously. There's I think Paul talked this way as well. The difference is the atmosphere. You're sitting watching it at home as opposed to going to a stadium and experiencing the atmosphere. But yeah, I can watch every game for that.
Okay, so like in terms there, you mentioned about going to the stadium, experiencing the atmosphere. Obviously, as you mentioned earlier, Richmond just won the league this time for the first time in like as long as you've known. Yeah, as an overseas fan, how did you feel connected to that win? I mean, was it something that you felt part of the kind of global Richmond group or whatever?
I did actually. They say Twitter and social media, all these things are great things. Well, they can be terrible things, but they can be great. Depending on who you follow and you build up interaction with them all, and you do feel it. And I say because you can watch it live and that kind of stuff, it's not exactly the same as being at the stadium or even probably being in Australia. But the EFL is, or Australian rules, whatever, is so marketed in that there's loads of podcasts and TV programs, and you can get swept up in it. I mean, so I did feel it, and in fact, the day of the grand final, I was booked up on a weekend away that I couldn't get out of. Well, I didn't want to get out in case I jinxed it, but on the day of the final, I was actually travelling to Danyang, and Wi-Fi permitting, I was watching the game, the final on my phone. So it's constant coverage. There's always something, and you do get immersed in it and feel part of it.
So I mean, comparing that to the ability to watch a K-League game, do you find is it then easier to watch Richmond than it would be, say, to watch? I mean, you're from Suwon, so say to watch like Suwon Blue Wings. Is it easier to watch Richmond or is it easier to watch Blue Wings? Not live. I'm talking about in terms of social media or TV or wherever.
For me, I've got to say Richmond. Now, part of that's probably a language thing. For as long as I've been here, my Korean is still pretty rudimentary. So going through the Korean channels, your neighbour or all that kind of stuff, it's just a hassle. But obviously I can't expect them to be governed in English for me. But it is part of what makes following the AFL and Richmond easier for me.
Okay, so I mean that kind of takes me on to my next question then. So as a foreigner, like in Korea, do you feel that the K-League is, I mean, in terms of 1 to 10, how accessible do you feel that the K-League is to a foreigner?
Don't get me wrong, because part of it is on me. I've been a casual observer and I've not really made the effort like you and other guys do to go to stadiums and all that kind of thing. But I don't feel, and again this is just my own opinion, that they've really made much effort to draw us in either. It's not hard to get to the stadium. Things are obviously cheap once you're there, but I don't feel that there's been the campaign to draw fans in.
Okay. So I mean, thinking about that you, as I said, that you live in Suwon. So if you go or when you go to a Blue Wings game, then what would you say is like the kind of highlights that maybe set, or the differences between a K-League game and an SPL game? Like, what would you say? What would you say would be the biggest positives and the biggest negatives?
I think positives obviously the price. You know, you're paying maybe what 12,000, whatever it may be, if you don't have a season ticket. So you're talking about what, £8 these days. You go to a Celtic match, your cheapest ticket is 20, 25 quid. It's obviously much cheaper. You can have a drink in a stadium. Celtic, you never feel threatened or anything, but you've got the police presence and all that kind of thing. Whereas they don't have that kind of pressure or whatever in Korean games. But I don't know if you make negatives. The negative would be the lack of atmosphere. You know, as much as you try to get involved or whatever, there's a clear difference between the atmosphere of a game back home and in the K-League.
Okay. Do you think that's across the board with every team, or do you think there are some teams that the atmosphere is kind of similar, or kind of you could say is comparatively the same as back home?
I think pretty much every team has their group that try to create that atmosphere. You know, and certainly super matches and that kind of thing. You know, Suwon fans, Blue Wings fans especially, the Seoul fans, they do create a good atmosphere. But I think for me, and again, I'm a casual observer on this. The things like the size of the stadium, the people who are actually in the stadium, or the majority of the people, their reasons for being there, the atmosphere that these guys are creating can kind of get lost.
Okay. Do you have a best and worst fans that you've seen during your time in Korea?
I'm from Suwon. You mentioned Blue Wings. I'm not a Blue Wings fan, but I think their fans, from what I've seen, tend to be the loudest, to keep going the longest, that kind of thing, regarding singing and so on.
Okay. I mean, I do believe I still have a video of you singing "We Are Satila" in the Pohang end against Blue Wings, but we might not actually reveal that video until later. Yeah. Okay. Who's your team currently? But you said that you're not a Blue Wings fan. So who's your team currently in the K-League?
I've been here a total of 14 years, but I've never actually committed to a team, which is why I've been a casual observer. For most of those 14 years I've lived in Suwon, but I really didn't want to follow the Blue Wings. You know, the colours, the Suwon, the Samsung connections. I just didn't want to go down that road. But very recently I have nailed my colours to the Suwon FC mask in the now K-League 2 that was announced today. It's K-League 1 and K-League 2.
It was indeed.
So, I will now claim to be a Suwon FC fan.
Okay. Now this is big because this is kind of related to your Jeju trip. Obviously no names, but your youngest son has actually recently got a contract with Suwon FC Juniors, right?
That's right, the youth team, yeah.
The youth team, yeah. So that's obviously kind of maybe, obviously influencing you, I guess there, yeah. Maybe at another time, they will come on, we'll kind of have you back on to talk a little bit about training and the training camp itself, and like kind of maybe some of the differences that you've seen between, because he used to play for the kind of affiliation of the Blue Wings, right?
That's right, yeah. You played for one of their French, their satellite teams or whatever.
Yeah. So maybe So maybe like at a later date we'll kind of get you on and kind of we can talk a little bit more in depth about that. Yeah. How do you think Suwon FC will do this year?
Well, again, I've not been following it closely enough, but looking at they've certainly signed plenty of players, and most of them seem to have gotten a good reaction. Like they say, for example, the Alex Lima guy come from Houston Dynamo, Alves and Alex Bruno. So signed your man from Songnam.
Yep.
So they seem to have signed a good team, building a good squad certainly, and I think they're quite a few people's favourites. But at the same time, there's a new coach coming in as well. We had a few games at the end of last season, but it's still going to be his first season, and the challenge of K-League 2. It's a very competitive league, so there's just the one going up thing makes it hard.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping they'll at least make the playoffs this year.
Okay. If they played in the SPL, if they played in the SPL, where do you think they would finish? I mean, obviously, as we said, there's been a big kind of reshuffle at the team. But they say everyone let's say all the signings hit the ground running. Like, if they were playing in the SPL, what do you think? Like, where would they be in the league?
Probably based on what I went a few games at the end of last season. I think most Korean teams, and I've probably shot down again, just my opinion, would be in the relegation zone. Okay. Purely on physicality.
Yeah.
I think these guys are really skillful, but the Scottish League is just speed and physicality, and I'm just not sure how well they would cope with it. Okay,
sweet. In your time in Korea, there would have been like the biggest changes that you mentioned, the change of the name, which is now like about the third incarnation of the league names. So we went from K Classic to the K-League 1, and we went from K-League Challenge to K2, yeah? But then what other changes have you seen in your time?
Obviously we've had the expansion to 2 leagues, the introduction of VAR and things like that. I kind of, you gave me a list of some questions you may ask before. I've kind of turned this round. I think there's not been enough changes.
Okay.
You know what I mean by that? They had the World Cup 2002 now. As I say, I was back in Scotland from 2003 to 2007. But it just feels to me they've missed the boat. I don't know what happened to the boom. They used to get Supermatch crowds of 50,000, whatever it may be. But it seems that attendances are coming down, interest seems a bit waning, and I just think they've not been proactive enough. So the changes they have made, expanding to 2 leagues, introducing things like VAR, changing to the split system instead of the playoffs, all very well and good, but I don't think they've done enough to attract fans, be it Korean fans or foreign fans.
Okay.
Reflected in attendances that you guys have been talking about on the podcast recently.
So you mentioned the big talking point, or one of the biggest talking points. You mentioned VAR. Would you, to VAR or not to VAR? I guess that's the question, right? Should it stay or should it go?
I would say it should go. Obviously, the idea behind it, that we get the right decisions, is good, but from what I've seen, it just doesn't seem to work well in Korea. It just takes too long. Every decision seems to be looked at. Every penalty I've seen given, they go and look at it. Football, I think, should be about debate and spontaneity, but VAR just seems to be taking that away in the Korean case.
Okay. I know that we both watched the game at the same time. The super match that finished, I think it finished 2 each in the end. There was 2 penalties, one for Jonathan, one for, I can't remember who the sole player was, and both of them were pretty dodgy, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, amazingly, even after VAR they were still given, which is crazy, yeah. But okay.
That's it. The ref gives it, and it's the same ref, I think, that goes and looks at it.
Yeah.
And how often is that ref go say, I made the mistake there? It needs to be an independent ref or whatever. But it just takes too long, I think, at the moment. Where that could be tweaked, I don't know, but it doesn't seem to be working right now.
Okay. Obviously, this year sees the World Cup coming up. Scotland, our team, are absolutely honking. Didn't make it yet again. We can blame Gordon Strachan all we want for that one. Who will you support in Russia? Will it be Korea or will it be anyone but England?
No. We both. No, I'll be supporting Korea. I've got to keep the family happy. Recently, I wasn't that optimistic a few months ago, but since Tony and Javier or whatever have come in, I think they made a big difference to Shin and the team. So, Sweden and Mexico, they could go either way if Korea turn up, but we'll see what happens. But I'll get behind Korea.
Okay, and then my final question. Obviously, you've got 2 boys. Would you want them to play for Scotland or play for Korea?
That's a tricky one. I guess obviously the chances are very, very slim. Let's be honest. If we were to get there, I'd say Scotland. But at the same time, the boys are coming through the Korean system. They've lived in Korea pretty much Max has lived all his life, but the older one hasn't. But yeah, they are Korean in effect, so whatever one, I'll be happy either way if it means that they are doing what they want to do, and at the moment they both want to be football players, so we'll see what happens. I'll be happy either way.
Okay, excellent. So thank you very much, it was a pleasure talking to you, and yeah, hopefully we'll have you back on again sometime, yeah? So, as we mentioned there, Joe and I talked a little bit about K-League, and obviously Joe, he's basing his opinions of Suwon FC on Suwon FC last season. We really don't know how they're going to do this season, having signed, what seems to be some pretty good signings.
So he got into Suwon FC last season, right?
Yeah.
He missed the classic season.
Yeah, so he got into them at the tail end of last season.
Okay.
As he said, because his son now plays for Suwon FC. Yeah. Okay. So for me, you mentioned before the interview with Joe that you mentioned what fixtures do we look for, but I think for me as well, some fixtures that I wanted to highlight, I guess, was that as I said, that we start away to Busan, we're at home to Gwangju, away to Suwon. I think that's a pretty horrendous start for Songnam, and given how poor we started last year, I don't really think Namgil has a lot of scope to try out new things with these players, right?
So I saw a comment on Twitter recently saying that Songnam are one of the favourites for the K2, but we know for a fact that they've had their budget slashed.
Yep.
They've got rid of some good players. Is the goalie on the way out?
Nope, he's committed to another season at least.
I just saw they'd signed a new goalie, so I was wondering if he was...
No, the new manager came in, sat everyone down, told them what he thought he would like them to be. Some were told he thought he would like them to be in other clubs.
Yeah.
Kim Dong-jun sat him down and asked him, basically begged him to stay for one more season.
He agreed.
And they agreed. They agreed to stay for one more year. It would seem as if the same thing happened with what do you call him, Orsulic as well, the big defender.
Okay.
He just went and joined the pre-season training camp this week, so he's been on he's been on Songnam TV talking about the club and talking about the fact that he'll be there this year. So I think keeping those two is massive. Adding in the talent of either or Adele, I guess as Koreans call him. It'll be good to see if he's more Eder or Adele, the singer. But yeah, I think the main thing for Songnam was keeping Kim Dong-jun and Orsulic. And just the rest of the team is just going to be built around kids coming through and just hoping they can kind of gel together and be a tough team to beat.
So will they make a good stab at the playoffs?
My personal opinion is no. I just think looking at what Suwon have done, who Suwon have signed, looking at how strong Asan finished the season last year,
yep.
And just looking at the fact that Daejeon can't be as awful again. Nobody has any idea how Gwangju are going to react to being relegated. But just looking at it, I think they might just clinch the last playoffs spot, but I don't think they're going to be up. I don't think they're going to be leading the chase or leading the challenge from early on. I think it might be something that over the course of a season they might get enough points and fight their way into a kind of playoff spot, but I'm not looking at it with an air of optimism, to be honest.
Okay.
So I don't think I'll be back in the away end at Sangam until next year.
There's always the cup.
There's always the cup. Okay. Speaking of the cup, as we mentioned, the ACL was back this week.
Second round of playoffs.
So
4 matches. 3
matches.
3 matches.
That I remember. Some pretty incredible scores.
Yep. Some shocks, some upsets.
Yep. So we had, you mentioned earlier, obviously Brisbane Roar. So they were playing at home this week, right?
Against Cerros Negros.
Yep.
Of the Philippines.
Indeed. And they couldn't keep their numbers on their shirts, which is one thing.
Yeah.
But not only that, but they also crashed out at home. So do you think, I guess the first question that we would ask is, do you think they took it serious? Or do you think they went in there thinking, we're Brisbane Roar at home to a Filipino team, we're going to win this easy?
Well, they're in the middle of their season at the moment, right? So they should be fighting fit focused, ready to go. But there's also a perception that Australians don't necessarily take the ACL as serious as they might. So I guess a bit of both.
Okay. They did open the scoring in the 35th minute before finding themselves 3-1 down with 15 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And the game finished 3-2 with some Bothwick scoring with 5 minutes to go, which is huge that the Aussie team is out already. Other game that maybe didn't, I guess, did go to plan was Chiangra United versus Bali United.
Yep. With
Chiangra, I went to extra time. It was nothing each at full time. I went to extra time and they won 2-1 in extra time. They went 2-0 up. I'm not going to say who scored the goals, and then the Bali United player pulled one back. His name was Spasojevic.
Okay.
So Chiang Rai are through. Bali out.
Shanghai, are they?
Okay. We'll go to the game that affects Korea in a minute. The other game was Muang Thong United versus Johor Darul Tazim.
So there were 4 games.
There were 4 games, yes. That one finished 5-2 to Muang Thong.
So Johor Darul whatever.
Johor Darul Tazim.
They almost got in last year, right?
Yeah.
But this year a bit of a tougher challenge.
Well, considering the fact that it was 5-0 with 91 minutes on the clock, and they scored 92 and 95, you could imagine they were humped. So, someone tells me that one went to plan as well, yeah? But the big news, the big one that didn't, was Eastern versus the Vietnamese team, Than Ho.
Yeah.
I should say it quickly because no one knows if my pronunciation's right or not.
Than Ho.
And that was an epic game. We were texting about that. I texted you about that game at half time, and it was like 1 each at half time.
Yeah.
So everything is not great for Eastern, but they're still going through.
Yeah. And
then that went mental. Then the Vietnamese team went 2-1 up, and then it went 3-1, and then it went 3-2, and then in the 96th minute, Da Hong got his hat-trick.
Okay.
And Eastern crashed out, which means that Than Ho now play Suwon on Tuesday evening.
And you'll be going?
Yeah, I'll be there, yeah.
So surely that'll be their one stab at glory, and from here on they'll get humped in Suwon. And
probably, yeah.
Dayan's been banging goals in against various university teams, right?
Yeah, so I've been seeing this in these, like in the friendlies.
Suwon's friendlies all like Yonsei University, Korea University, there, and they've been winning them like 6-10-0 ish, and he's been putting in lots of goals.
Yeah. But that's not really practice for playing a team that beat Eastern, right? You don't know. Vietnamese teams have been poor in the past, but we saw a couple of years ago when
Binh Dong.
Yep, Binh Dong did well against John Book, and then even the playoffs we had. I always like to call them New Boys of Bern, but that's not what they're called, obviously. But we had Hanoi TNT, who took Pohang to the second half. But having been destroyed by Seoul the previous year, I mean, the display they put up against Pohang was unexpected, to say the least.
And of course, in the under-23 under-23 Asian Cup, Vietnam have got through to the final under the guidance of a Korean coach.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, bit of hope for Vietnamese football. Bit of a.
It seems. I think people tend to just dismiss Southeast Asian football, but I think we saw the results. Like the Filipino team beating the Aussies. Like Malaysia did okay in the under-23s. Like Vietnam have got there in the final. I think Southeast Asian football is maybe going through a little bit of a kind of upsurge in maybe expectations. Yeah. Just before we get fully onto that under-23s, the playoff games coming up midweek, so finalised the group stages is Tianjin Quanjin.
Yep.
I play Ceres, the winner, the besters of Brisbane. Kashiwa Reso play Muangthong.
Okay.
Suwon Blue Wings play Tianhe, and Shanghai play Jianghui United. Do you see anything other than 4 home wins?
No.
Yeah, me too. So that's that previewed. I can't see anything other than 4 home wins there.
I think the leagues in the first round of the playoffs and second round playoffs are much closer than those and the rest of them.
Yeah, I think so. I think the gap, even though we've talked about kind of how Southeast Asian football is doing well, I think that gap is still too big when it comes to playing Japanese K-League and Chinese League teams, I think. Okay, so that brings us on to the under-23s. Vietnam are in the final.
Yep.
They're obviously in the final against Korea, who beat their we always beat them underdogs of Uzbekistan. There's no way Uzbekistan
the chokers.
The chokers. Korea always beat them.
Doesn't work at under-23 level apparently.
Apparently it doesn't, right?
They got tonked, did they not?
So I actually watched the second half of the game. Interesting game. So basically, it was 1-0 to Uzbekistan, and then John Woodplayer, the captain of the under-23 team, scored a fantastic header, bullet header. It was a great goal actually. And at that point, you got the feeling that Uzbekistan were about to choke it yet again.
Yeah.
There wasn't a Chadori on the pitch, but you still get the feeling that Uzbekistan are about to lose it here. And then there was a red card for Korea.
Okay.
For the boys' second yellow card, and it was one of those ones that the ball was put through, and he kind of came sprinting into the box, and he slid in, probably realising he wasn't going to make contact with the ball, and made contact with the goalkeeper's stomach.
Yeah.
And as such was given a yellow card.
Yeah.
I don't think it was soft. I think it was justified, because I don't think he actually looked at it and thought, I'm going to slide in here and knock this past the goalkeeper. I think it was a frustrating lunge. He did seem to make contact with the ball, but went right into the goalkeeper as well, and I think he probably was justly sent off. I'm sure other people will argue that he wasn't, but I think he was probably. I think if that was my goalkeeper, I would be screaming for a sending off as well. In the melee that followed, in the handbags, as there always is between Korea and Uzbekistan, I don't know why they hate each other so much, but anyway, in the carnage that followed, Egan Ho was given a yellow card.
Okay. He
wasn't sent off, but he got a yellow card. At this point, you still get the feeling that Korea. I still felt that Uzbekistan would choke it, and that Korea would still win. It went to extra time.
Yep.
Rick Astley, the Uzbekistani Rick Astley, was having the game of his life down the right wing, and Uzbekistan towards the end of regulation 90 minutes were really beginning to look that they were coming into the game. They were creating more and more chances, and you got the feeling, okay, in extra time Korea really need to shut up shop, and they didn't last very long. Uzbekistan scored another 3 goals.
3 goals in extra time, right?
In extra time, yeah. The game finished 4-1, and Uzbekistan, got to say, deserved winners, and it was Korea choking it this time.
And they'll take on Vietnam, who beat Qatar on penalties in the other semi.
Yep.
While Korea gets to play Qatar for the third place playoff.
Yep.
Predictions for those?
Having seen Uzbekistan and having not seen Vietnam, I'm going to go with an Uzbekistan win. And having seen Korea and not seen Qatar, I'm going to go with a Qatari win.
Very professional there.
Yes.
Okay, so after all that, time for our winners and losers of the week.
Yep.
Winner
of the week, got to be Southeast Asian football.
Okay.
Vietnamese teams winning an ACL, Filipino teams winning an ACL, Vietnamese team through the last the final of the under-23. Scenes of utter joy and jubilation in the streets of Hanoi, and some couple even ran down and got their pre-wedding photographs taken in amongst all the players and stuff. Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant scenes, brilliant for the fans, brilliant for football. For me, the winners are definitely Southeast Asian football.
Okay.
And Vietnam in particular, but yeah.
For me, I'm going to go with K-League itself. They've obviously changed the names this week. It's been universally well received. So finally, marketing-wise, they've done something right and got people talking and got some praise. So there we go. Loser of the week.
Loser of the week, A-League.
A-League.
And not just because Brisbane Roar crashed out of the ACL, but because their whole image in itself